Memory is fickle, and in many ways it's both a blessing and a curse to us all. We use our memory as a means of identifying things in the past that would otherwise become invisible and non-existent. We treat our memory as a record of our lives, a hazy representation of moments we once lived. Not everyone's recollection of something is going to be the same, whether it be due to a person's external influences, or even variable external triggers that can drastically alter someone's perception of a given time. This works for everything in life, and for me, a core part of my memory bank is my infinite love of video games. Games aren't something we're always going to think about. Regardless of age, we are always traversing the boundless reality that is life. We all spend our days thinking about the mundane, scrolling forever on our phones for that quick dopamine hit. But every so often, you get a brief glimpse back in time. Through whatever circumstance, games regularly fade in and out of our consciousness. They rarely remain integral for long durations of time, and for the past few years I've been nothing but fascinated by this. The human mind tends to forget things we deem to be unimportant. That random indie game you played on your phone 10 years ago, or that dull reimagining of a beloved franchise. We try to forget these games for one reason or another, but sometimes, in that rare flash of nostalgia, we see them pop into view once more. Max the Cursor Brotherhood is the game that kickstarted this project. Released back in 2013 for the critically acclaimed juggernaut that was the original Xbox One, this puzzle platformer has always held a strange spot in my memory for the past 10 years since I last played it. Every few years, I'll suddenly recall a time I was at my friend's house watching him play this game on his massive TV. We were sitting on the floor of this expansive open room that was submerged in books, rugs, and striking white walls. On that screen, a very basic adventure game starring two annoying brothers was being played. I could recall specific details looking back, such as the opening sandy world with a gargantuan evil monster hunting me down, but besides that, this game was nothing but a souvenir of the past. I must have only had no more than 3 hours worth of exposure to it at the time, yet I could remember it like it was a colossal masterpiece. And so I finally gave it a proper go for myself. And it was fine. It had some inventive puzzle solving, with a pretty cool gimmick being the magic pen that grants you the power to manipulate the environment, but besides that, it was exactly what I expected it to be. A good but not super interesting project connected to a publisher that wasn't exactly at the forefront of gaming innovation back in the day. So why did this game even stay relevant to me in the first place? Many of the games that we lose our grasp with over the years are usually forgotten for a reason. We don't see many people rediscovering their love for Super Mario 64 or Silent Hill 2 in the same way as Dungeon Defenders or Screen Cheat. These genre-defining cocoons of inventive game design and revolutionary mechanics are often remembered because of the paths they laid for games to improve upon their base design. Everyone in my generation remembers Skylanders because it was the first time we saw a true blend of real-life toys and digital gaming come crashing together in spectacular fashion. These toys we hold so many connections with are meaningful to so many people, me being one of them. But people don't talk about Disney Infinity or LEGO Dimensions in the same way anymore. Both of these projects tried following the success and impact of Skylanders, and in many ways they should have succeeded. All these IPs at their disposal, and yet both of these ventures died before they really had any meaningful attachment to people. I still own a handful of my Disney Infinity figures from back in the day, but that's only because of the emotions tied to the characters I've chosen to keep, not because of the game itself. There's an old unlisted video on this channel of me playing Disney Infinity, and it's unfortunately one of the last remaining echoes of the franchise I have. It's just me and my friend playing through a terrible parkour map, with my other friend holding the camera. It was edited in iMovie, and it's about to be 10 years old. This is all I have left of this franchise. But maybe that's a good thing. When I sit here writing and talking about forgotten games, I know that many of my previous experiences need to be lost to time because they simply didn't interest me enough to warrant any long-lasting attention. My backlog page shows me that I've had a pretty decent track record of games I've played and enjoyed, with very few being rated less than 3 out of 5 stars. Of course, I can't sit here and defend very well why 100 Cats New York has the same rating as Thank Goodness You're Here. However, I can definitely critique the games on the other side of the coin. It's safe to say that I've played some pretty abysmal games before. Flockers is a strategy game first launched on Xbox, and I only remember it because of how funny I thought the name was when I was 9. Wreck-It Ralph for the 3DS was a playable PowerPoint presentation. Project Spark was a failed attempt at a digital sandbox that is now only remembered because they tried to rebrand Conker into a friendly, happy-go-lucky creature instead of the alcoholic chainsmoker he's known and loved for. These are games that don't have any desire to be thought about because they didn't do anything to stand out amongst the crowd of much better competitors. Like a smell you randomly reminisce on, certain games were only meant to be thought about at pointless intervals while you're watching a movie or doing some chores. It's not to say that these games don't serve a purpose to someone out there. I could get a comment on this video saying that Drive Club is the best racing game of all time, and I wouldn't be able to argue with you because, well, it's just not my place to do so. I just find it fascinating how we can play so many things in our lifetime and yet only recall so much at any given moment. Forgetting games is often demoralizing to think about. Not being able to process your own moments with a given product feels like your brain creating its own mental solitary confinement for it. Many of these get lost in small corners of our mind with very little chance of escape, and as I've already mentioned, these are mostly thanks to them just being uninteresting. However, what about the games we distinctively have a connection to, but the rest of the world has seemingly disregarded? Onrush is an arcade racer developed by Codemasters, released exclusively for consoles in 2018. Its gameplay loop centers around a large group of players driving through realistic and bombastic levels while simultaneously trying to destroy every enemy that gets in your way. The combat was punchy, the gameplay was incredibly fun, and the rock instrumentation matched effortlessly with the controlled chaos constantly overwhelming you at every turn. But due to the game's poor sales and lack of consistent player base, its online services, and in turn the game itself, shut down at the end of 2022. Another Codemasters racing game I hold close to my heart is Toy Box Turbos, a spiritual successor to Micro Machines, yet another game I fondly remember from the Xbox days. It still has servers up to this day, but with an average of less than 10 players on at any time, its legacy has quickly been forgotten. I cherish this nifty little game a lot. Not only is it an absolute blast to play and get good at, but it was also the very first game I ever got on Steam, alongside Goat Simulator, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. This is a racing game that never got to see any long-lasting success, and is now no longer available to purchase anymore. This underrated gem of a game will never receive a cult-like fanbase, it will never know the feeling of having full online lobbies. For almost everyone on Earth, it will go down as a relic without recollection. Another fleeting game I can't help but remember fondly is Happy Wars. With it being the very first free-to-play game for Xbox Live Arcade back in 2012, you would assume its history has been solidified with integrity. But looking at it on YouTube, it's rare to see a recent video about it crack more than 100 views. A vast amount of the content made about it now is from channels with just a handful of subscribers just posting their Xbox clips to minimal viewership. Even without filtering the content to this week or this month, you'll struggle to find successful videos on the game that aren't at least 2 years old, with most being even more ancient than that. Happy Wars was a game I exclusively played with the same friend that introduced me to Max the Cursor Brotherhood. It was a simple tower defense game with a Paper Mario aesthetic, combined with Battlefield-like qualities to its design. And looking back, I can see why I would have loved it back in the day. It was so easy to get on and play, and the customization of your character was a great way to add depth to an otherwise pretty bare-bones experience. Using the Xbox app as my actual console sits collecting dust, I went to check how many hours I'd played of it, and to my surprise it was an admirable 24. This put it in the same league as Sonic Generations in terms of overall playtime comparison. Yet one of these games I'm constantly reminded of and hear being referenced all the time, the other a microscopic pastime I can't recall a single specific memory of. I credit Happy Wars for being somewhat of an innovative experience for me, as it was the first game of its kind I'd ever played. Yet I failed to mention it once throughout my entire history on YouTube, even back in the day recording my TV screen using my iPad. In 10 years' time, how many people will remember Onrush? Will remember Toy Box Turbos? Will remember Happy Wars? What about Grow Home or Ballistic Overkill? Hell, even infamous Second Son or Turbo Dismount? My life was shaped by the small yet meaningful memories I have with these games of the past, games of which I may never play again, some which I could play but I just don't want to, and some that I'll likely one day fully complete. I am who I am because of every game I've played, good or bad, memorable or not. What formulates all of my opinions and feelings on this form of art is based solely on the time I've spent with every game I've ever played. There's not a single person on this planet who has the same library of games that I do, and whilst we can share and contribute to the growth of this industry, we can only accurately have a voice if we've gone through enough of the medium to know what is considered memorable or not.
Calling a game a forgotten favourite feels like a contradiction. If I remember it, then surely it isn't forgotten. But in this case, I don't mean a hidden cult classic, but a piece of a game that slipped out of the conversation entirely. My pick, strangely enough, is Just Cause 2. On paper it's hardly forgotten. Released in 2010, it sold millions, scored solid reviews, and even spawned 2 bigger sequels. To this day, it still pops up on lists of the top 100 games of the Xbox 360 generation, sitting comfortably as a near AAA success of its era. Even in a generation defined by open-world giants like Red Dead Redemption, Skyrim and Assassin's Creed, Avalanche's take stood apart. JC2 treated its world less like a space for immersion and more like a stage for Hollywood spectacle. At any moment the world could ignite, a car chase tearing through the streets, a shootout spilling into the open, a power plant erupting in flames as you leapt away with your parachute trailing behind. It was a machine built for emergent, over-the-top action, the kind of moments that stick in your memory, like scenes from a favourite movie you can't quite believe you got to play. But what has been forgotten, erased completely in the 15 years since, is the part of it that mattered most to me. Its demo. A 30-minute vertical slice, once freely available on digital storefronts, now long gone. And yet that tiny window lingers in my memory far more vividly than the full game ever did. The setup was simple. After a short tutorial covering movement, combat, and a taste of the game's explosive toys, a timer kicked in, and from that moment the world was yours. Hijack a helicopter, tether enemies to propane tanks, parachute off a mountain into a fuel depot mid-explosion. The only real limit, beyond your imagination, was time, and that's exactly what made it special. Without the countdown, I probably would have played around for a bit, pulled off a few stunts, and moved on, much like I did with the full release, but with a ticking clock, suddenly I was optimizing, plotting routes, calculating risks, planning my next stunt. It wasn't the game pushing me forward, it was the clock daring me to. That and a pretty healthy dose of friendly competition with my university housemates, all of us comparing runs, wringing more chaos out of each attempt, trying to break through the invisible walls and find something the developers didn't want us to see. We treated it less like a disposable demo and more like a shared challenge. Ironically, time has only made that demo more important. It was designed as nothing more than a promotional teaser, but the time limit gave Just Cause 2 a focus and urgency the full game never had. Like an action scene in a film, its power came from being loud, fleeting, and finite. It mattered because it ended. And in that sense, the demo feels like a relic of an era. For years, demos quietly faded out of the industry, written off as marketing fluff. But now, with things like Steam Next Fest, they're creeping back in, especially for indies who rely on short vertical slices to hook players. A dream game for me would be if someone treated the Just Cause 2 demo as more than a preview. Imagine 30 minutes in a contained open world, reshaped each run with roguelike twists, shifting objectives, escalating threats, new opportunities dropping in at just the right moment. Not a sampler, but a temporary playground built to be replayed, an experience that burns brighter because it isn't built to last. That little demo changed how I think about open worlds. It proved that structure isn't the enemy of creativity. When everything is available all the time, nothing feels urgent. But when the world is temporary, when your window is closing, even the most familiar actions take on new energy. And that's the truth about forgotten games. They don't really disappear. They linger in memories, in forum posts, in grainy YouTube uploads. Their absence makes them sharper. They remind us how fragile games are, tied to storefronts, licenses, and hardware. We like to imagine games as permanent cultural fixtures, but often the most meaningful ones are the fleeting experiments, the spin-offs, and the demos that vanish overnight. They define an era, and then they're gone, surviving only in the stories of those who are there to play them.
There was a singular game that I had a vague yet distinct image of in my head for the past few years now. There were these abstract creatures sliding on their belly down an obstacle ice rink, and all I knew was that I recalled it from an old DanTDM video. This singular video only comes to mind once every few years, as it holds on to its fleeting singular memory with grit and determination. I made it my mission to finally uncover what this ridiculously vibrant and orderless experience was, and upon diving deep into his channel, I rediscovered a game that I had never even played before, yet had such a deep connection with regardless. Pen Triathlon. Released all the way back at the launch of the Sega Dreamcast, a full 7 years before I popped up in the world, this was a launch title for a console which is only widely recognised for a set few games that still live on in the gaming echo chamber. Sonic Adventure, Jet Set Radio, Crazy Taxi, and a couple more. With public sales numbers not available online and less than 200 logs on Backlogged, it's safe to say that this is a game that's been truly lost to time. Even with it being a first-day exclusive title for a console, it's seen little to no conversation anywhere, and yet it's still somehow part of my life. DanTDM's video isn't anything special, it follows the same tried and true formula he got famous for, and is by no means a standout video amongst his immense catalogue of content. However, this niche and unassuming racing game was one of his personal favourites as a kid, which led to him spreading that love to my generation. I wouldn't have known about this at all if it wasn't for his own memories with it. That meaningless random video released 11 years ago is likely only familiar to a handful of you watching, perhaps even none of you. Nevertheless, it evidently did something to me that isn't replicable with every old video. Without delving deep into things, I could likely only recall less than 50 videos I ever watched as a kid, despite certainly watching tens of thousands. Pen Triathlon is a game I've never given the time to gain personal memories from, yet it's forever going to be a game I'll simultaneously remember and forget over and over again. And as games come and go, we as consumers are often left trapped between the old and the new. Absurdly priced AAA games seem to be the standard for the market now, with exceptions like Silksong breaking that mould and standing tall and proud with its sweet £16 price point, but it's safe to say that what we have to accept now is that games are very rapidly ascending into price points not everyone can comfortably afford. Unless a game is immensely successful and highly rated, such as this year's Donkey Kong Bonanza, demanding such ludicrous prices for most games is going to lead many to fall out of relevance in my eyes because I will never be willing to spend that much to play them. Why would I play the new Sonic game at that price point when I can go back and play the older entries and probably have just as good of an experience? Despite the overwhelmingly positive reception the game has received, that price point is just too high to justify purchasing. It's games like these that are going to be forgotten quicker than any other, especially as indie games are now in a golden era of popularity to the general video game audience, with them arguably becoming more innovative than the major budget titles with large marketing budgets to boost their popularity. This isn't me trying to say that every new steeply priced project is going to fall under the radar within a few years, as I can't see the new Metroid or Silent Hill game failing under any circumstances. It's just that I think video games are slowly becoming a wealthier hobby to engage in as the years go on. During my research for this video, I was reminded of several games that have come out in recent years that I haven't given the time of day because of their pricing. Despite loving the initial beta, I completely forgot Black Ops 6 existed, and now that Black Ops 7 is on the horizon, that game I had a handful of hours in is now going to be lost to time. What I'm trying to get out with this video is that there are many ways a game can and will be forgotten. Most of what releases will never see a cult-like fanbase, that just isn't how the industry goes. I want to sit here and say that every game will serve a purpose to a wide demographic of people, but that just isn't true. These games reach their peaks long before they deserve to, brief moments of passion and glory that were quickly swept away by the ever-changing landscape of the video game world. These games never had to be bad to be forgotten. Many of the games I delved into after years of them laying dormant in my mind ended up rekindling multiple fun and rejuvenating memories of joyous times I had as a kid, when all I had to worry about was doing my homework and getting my house chores done. We all have feelings and memories that sway in and around our brain as the days go by. The stimuli to kick those into gear are all out there waiting to be activated. It's just that for almost all of these games, that may never happen again. Thank you guys for watching another one of my videos. Hopefully this is uploaded about a month after the last video, which, to put it bluntly, didn't do very hot. But still, I very much enjoyed that video. And if you are a new viewer or you haven't watched my Undertale video, I would say go and watch that after this one. Thank you, Hot Cider, for collaborating on this project. It was really great to have your insight on Just Cause, and it's just great to be able to collab with people. It's a really fun experience. So everyone make sure you go and check out his channel. His will be linked at the top of the description. What else? I will give a little sneak peek that I was going to make a Cyberpunk video to release at the end of the year. I still plan on making that video very soon. But there is a certain Mario game which was re-released for the Switch 2, which I have a lot to talk about, and that's probably going to be the next video, so there's your little teaser. But yeah, that's it really. Thank you Tesco Meal Deal once again for being a member. Make sure you like and subscribe, all that shit. And yeah, take care everybody. Thank you again. Peace.